A new age of terror is upon us. A new breed of criminal is roaming the streets. The champions are back, and after all the evidence is in, they'll reach their own verdict and execute the sentence by the deadline. This is the review of Champions. My name is Lord Deathman, and I'll be your host today as we review the 6th episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But, as usual, fair warning, this conversation will include major spoilers for the season finale, One World, One People. If you've come this far, it's time to take the next step in your training. To unlock the deepest enigmas of the champions, you must hit that like button and subscribe. We plan to cover all the upcoming Disney Plus Marvel shows and more in the coming weeks. And now, champions, I welcome you to the arena. When I say your name, let's greet our listeners and tell them what it is we came here to do. First up, we have Champion Zero and the patron of the games, the Grand Master.
Hello, everybody. Really looking forward to talk about this awesome season finale.
And on today's show, we also have the Master Builder, Stanton.
Absolutely. I've been talking about this show nonstop. Phase 4 is off to a rocket start. I can't wait for more of it. It's amazing.
Likewise. And back from the Dark Universe, we welcome Shadowbiz.
Hi, glad to be here, everyone. Can't wait to get started and talk about the finale. The finale.
And get started is exactly what we're going to do. So, champions, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is in the can. So let's skip the preamble and get right to the discussion. I want to start off with the Grandmaster. What did you think of this densely packed, action-packed, thrilling finale to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? One world, one people.
One word: perfection. I thought it was absolutely perfect. I was when I was watching it on Friday morning, I was like cheering, getting chills, goosebumps all over. It was it was absolutely perfection. And to break it down, it started with that great action scene at the beginning where Sharon all of a sudden shows up. Actually, you already see she's not really helping much, if at all. And that reveal, we all saw that coming. So to me, that was okay. I love the way when Sam, or I should say Captain America, saves that truck from falling down the construction, and then you see Bucky looking up, being proud of him. Great moment. There were tons of great moments. We will get to the speech of Sam later. I think it was one of the best monologues in the MCU to date. The end where you see the reveal of US Agent, I loved it. I loved the way they handled the character of John Walker in the whole series. By the way, it was a bit of both. Something good, something bad, something really bad, but also something really good. And I like the way they set this character up. They can go all the way, both ways in the future, and the fact that Contessa Valentina teased that things are about to get weird. That's a threat, but it sounds more like a promise to me about all the awesomeness that is coming. And Bucky going to the Japanese uncle. And revealing what he did in the past, and seeing that what he did, telling the guy he murdered his son, was still a good thing to do, because that gave the old man closure, and gave Bucky a sense of peace. And the highlight of the whole episode was for me the scenes with Isaiah Bradley while Sam was giving his speech. I think he also opened Isaiah's eyes at that moment, and yeah, then he brought him to the Smithsonian or whatever the museum is where that's that is on display, and to see that statue, yeah, that was an amazing moment, and yeah, a redemption for Isaiah Bradley, and yeah. This finale had everything, and they stuck the landing on a way that you rarely see. And I can say, and I already posted on the board, that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is now officially my #1 outing in the MCU. Number
Outstanding.
1 in the top 25. We are at 25 outings, people. It's a lot. If you want to rewatch everything, you're busy for 3 weeks. But anyway, yeah, it's my new #1, and that says it all.
Well, that is certainly not faint praise. I want to ask you one question before I move on, which is, were there any valleys for you in this? Any not so high peaks in the episode? Anything that caught you as a little off or perhaps a bit rushed? Or do you feel like this really was like a Falcon level landing?
Yeah. I can't think of anything. No, yeah. There probably is, but I am so in awe that I am forgiving. But yeah, I couldn't really say at the moment what it would be. That wasn't really completely great.
All right.
So
Well,
I'm
you've got
sorry.
time.
I'm not too critical. I know that, but yeah, this show caught me, and the show is simple for me. It's the best in the MCU, so I rate it higher than Infinity War and Endgame and Black Panther and Winter Soldier and you call it. And oh, that's the thing I love the most actually. When they closed off the show and you see the title card come up, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, that was the moment I almost stood up out of my chair and started to jump around and cheer. It was that great. So yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. I will get to my rating later, and I have one that will surprise you guys.
Yeah, it is hard to be critical when Disney is operating at this particular high level. Thanks for your commentary, and moving on. Stanton, let's get your take on One World, One People.
First off, I've been a lot on social media recently, and just the outpouring of love and appreciation for Anthony Mackie and the journey he's been on. 7 projects so far, counting this one, and he's obviously got a lot more coming up. It's just been incredible to sort of see everybody take to this and really appreciate it and really thank him for everything he's done. And I feel great for the guy. I think it's amazing. I think they did this transition like so well that they really did land it. They really did. I described it as not just passing a mantle, but this is probably the mantle to pass in the MCU. So to see Sam sort of take that up and the way they did it, historically, especially with the way they tied in a lot of the history, like with Isaiah and stuff, and even Bucky, because you know that this meant a lot to Bucky as well, and even John Walker. It meant a lot to John Walker. You can tell how much this particular mantle means to so many people. So I thought just that whole process of getting it to Sam, and then Sam finally accepting it and really taking responsibility for it was really incredible. I thought that was amazing. Standout stuff, the action scenes. Sam, especially chasing down the helicopter, that entire helicopter sequence. I don't know how long it lasted. It was like 10 minutes or something, but back and forth and juggling around 2 separate copters and then rescuing these people. I thought that was all really fantastic stuff and showed off Sam's skill set, because he's not Steve, right? He's not a super soldier. He's got his own specific skill set, and it's great to see him use that. I know there was a little debate about whether or not he'd get the wings back, but I'm glad he did, because that's who he is. That's what his character is. So I thought that was fantastic. I'll just go with the other guy in the show, Bucky. I loved how I loved his part, but just like that ending, how they wrapped it up with him freeing himself and going back and admitting what he did to this guy and just finally feeling free. I'm really interested in seeing where he goes. But my guy, you guys know that the U.S. agent is who got me into comics, and I just absolutely love everything they did with John Walker. I love that he's insanely flawed, and it's great. I like that he will take a no-nonsense approach sometimes. Sometimes he makes terrible decisions. Sometimes he lets his ego get out of control, but that's who he is, and I can't wait to see more of him. I'm really, really curious where they're going with this. Is it Thunderbolts? Is it something else? I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see, anything else in this particular one that really stood out to me? Sharon, you know what? I'll cover Sharon just for a second. I like this one because I've gone back and tried to think through like what it must have taken to get her to this point. And from Civil War, I just want to recap this real quick. She's had about 8 years. She went off the grid. She started in Madripoor. She probably had a few years of like working her way up a little bit. The snap happened, and this allowed her to consolidate her power in Madripoor for a little while. She grew into this role of the power broker, as far as we can tell anyway. Something else may be going on here, we don't know. But I think it's really interesting what happened in the show, that she had commissioned the super soldier serum. She was using that, but then this lured in Sam and Buck, and she realized she had a path back, that she could basically trade in the super soldier serum for a path back into selling intel from the U.S. government directly. So I think it really works out. I think it's really curious what she's done, and I'm really interested where she's going with this. I have no idea, but I thought that's a fun thing to go back and think of the history of that. So I'll just leave it at that for now.
Who do you think she's talking to on the phone? Sometimes it sounds like it could be a subordinate, but other times it sounds like it could be her boss. Is this another mystery character we should be concerned about?
I think, I don't know, it sort of sounded, my first instinct was she was probably talking to that lady who was in the car with her that we saw back in Madripoor. That's what I thought, but I have no idea who that is either, like her second in command or something like that.
Right, a lieutenant?
Right, but I've seen a lot of people suggesting, we know there's a scroll theory out there that seems to fit. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, when they get to Secret Invasion, if they don't reveal somebody that has been a scroll for quite a period of time, I'd be shocked. And I've kind of been describing this as if it smells a little funny, there might be, if there's some smoke there might be some fire. So I don't know if that's where they're going, but she's certainly a prime candidate for something like that. I don't know who else, in terms of a boss, she'd possibly be talking to. So I heard some people mention Ross, but Ross already works for the government, so I don't know why you'd need her to get government secrets or anything. So if it's somebody else, I don't know.
Could be the Skrull High Command.
Could be the Skrull High Command.
You get to them by Verizon. You use your cell phone. But yeah, there is this Skrull theory about Sharon that is gaining more and more credibility with me the more I read about it. Although I will say it kind of would be obvious if she turns this dark corner and then the explanation is that she's even darker and not who she appears to be. The whole idea of Secret Invasion in the comic books is that somebody who was acting the way you think that they should the whole time turns out to be someone who was acting against the hero's interests. But we'll see. I don't think it can be ruled out. But Grandmaster, you had an additional comment here.
Yeah, isn't Sharon talking on the phone to Val? That's what I think.
That does make some sense. Yeah.
I mean, she seems like she is in control of an organization, or at least part of an organization. And if she is indeed, if the power broker was going after the super serum, and Val now has control of the super serum, and I mean, it could very well be that Val was sending Sharon after the super serum, indeed, to get that team of enhanced individuals to do their bidding. So that's how that's a theory, of course, but I think that would make sense, and I think they hinted at that in the show.
Definitely possible.
We very well could be dealing with a situation where Sharon and Val are collaborating. Although it's really hard to tell the way they introduced Val and the way she seems to be able to move in and out of these different geographies. She was right outside the hearing that John Walker had. So I was like, was she in there? Was she a member of the committee, or was she just sitting in the sidelines sort of watching the whole thing? So it could be that Val already has a seat in government, and is sort of acting as a rogue faction to put together the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers. I think we need the spec op version of the Avengers. That's where they're heading with this, where you're going to have Avengers who are not necessarily the PR faces that our Avengers are, the folks that sort of take the interviews and, kiss the babies and smile for the politicians. The Dark Avengers were the ones who, you send in to do the dirty work, and they look like your heroes. You want to anticipate that this guy who's wearing the black, white, and red is Captain America, but he isn't, and he doesn't act like that at all. But in any event, lots of theories coming up ahead in this episode, so I don't want to go too far down the speculation rabbit hole before we get a chance to talk to Biz to get his take on One World, One People.
It was a phenomenal episode. Like, you obviously because I did not see that coming at all with Falcon keeping his wings. He was like, is it going to be Captain America? Does he need wings too? That's kind of like overkill. But I can live with that. Like, but it was just unexpected. Like, but also obviously he's not a super soldier then, so I guess that he kind of still needs the wings as like an advantage. So it makes sense in that way. Like obviously Steve and Bucky, they've got the serum in them. The action was great. Like right from the get-go, from the opening, like you can feel like this is the finale. Like there's the suspenseful music, the red lighting, the fuzzy like screens. It was like so setting it up like, so this is going to be tense. It's going to be action heavy. It did not disappoint. What else happened? Like obviously the power broker. That's a huge reveal. Like people sniffed it out pretty early on. I had some doubts that she wasn't the power breaker, but it is what it is. It's interesting though, because Sharon, she's like she's a good guy in the comics, and then like now she's like bad. So I'm thinking, is she really bad? Like it certainly looks like she's really bad. Like after her leaving the what's called the hearing and saying like, oh, we're gonna plan much bigger stuff now. But so that's gonna be interesting, unless she's like deep cover, which I'm not so sure about now. Like working for Fury or one other good guy. But yeah, now the Skrull theory, which we kind of dismissed in the last review, now that's taking a bit of a more of a possibility. So that'll be definitely interesting. And I had a thought about that in terms of the phone call. She might still be representing the power broker, but she's just saying that she's the power broker. Like, I mean, we might not yet have seen the power broker just yet, but who knows? What else? Yeah, it was just a good episode all around. I do have some negatives. Just like last time, obviously I didn't really like the forced politics. Like, should we call these terrorists? Yeah, they are terrorists. What else is there? Just like, and again, like I've already expressed this opinion, but the flag smashers, they just didn't do it for me. They weren't charismatic at all compared to Zemo or Val or like US Agent. I thought US Agent was actually going to be a little bit more, I guess, evil, but I guess they're kind of like doing a slow burn. I mean, they've got like next season or like the next movie, like Captain America 4. I mean, that's in the works now. But yeah, I didn't think US Agent would be still helping them out, but I guess it's like a gradual. Yeah, but yeah, that's my thoughts anyway.
How do you feel that they dealt with wrapping up the sort of character arcs? Did you feel satisfied with where Bucky is at this point, where Sam is, where Isaiah is? Do you feel like everybody sort of got the attention that they needed, or were there some plot threads that you felt, some arcs that perhaps weren't done justice?
No, Isaiah was done well, even though I didn't like that aspect of it. But yeah, like he's slowly come around. Obviously, the statue of him cemented that recognition. You can come to terms with it. But also, with Bucky though, at the end, I thought that was a bit that was glossed over a bit too quickly. I feel like they could have added like an extra 2 minutes just to like let it sink in a bit more. Like that was a bit too quick in my opinion. But apart from that, everyone was great. Yeah.
Yeah, you can never get enough Bucky, right? You can never get too much. If they'd have given us 5 extra minutes of Bucky, I think that would have been amazing and awesome. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, overall, I felt fairly satisfied with all of the character arcs, but I do want to say that with Bucky, I agree with you. I tend to think that we could have seen a little bit more about what's going to happen with the future of him. He's a different person after this series. He's freed himself from the mental captivity of being the Winter Soldier, and now he has to sort of carve out his own life, you know, who he's going to be, what his friends are like. He's actually got to build a life for himself, and I think that's going to be an interesting challenge for him. And honestly, I'm looking forward to the day when they say that there is going to be a Winter Soldier movie. I think that would be incredibly awesome. Yeah, but truly a great episode and truly a great series. So I want to turn to the champions in this next round of commentary to sort of talk about your feelings about this series, where you're placing it. You know, one of us has already put it at the top of all of the MCU content since the beginning. I want to see where it ranks for some of us, others of us. And, you know, I just any other additional thoughts that you wanted to bring out with regards to how this series was handled. So I'll start with Biz. You can tell me a little bit about what you thought of the entire series. You know, is there looking back now as how things unfolded? Do you feel like, where does this rank for you with regards to things like WandaVision? Is this better? Is this worse? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, I'm still kind of processing that, like whether I like this more or WandaVision. I think I'll have to go. I think I'll have to go with WandaVision, like because it's just a bit more different, like in terms of like the sitcom layout, different like sitcom episode each episode, and then obviously the magic. It was just, and also it was weird. So like I think I liked that it was a bit more unique. Well, obviously Captain America is like, I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier is pretty good too, but I just like the uniqueness of WandaVision more. And I feel WandaVision's story was smoother as well, because I feel as good as Falcon and Winter Soldier is, it was a little bit too ambitious, because how many villains did they have in this series? They had they had Zemo, they had Val, they had the Flag Smashers, they had US Agent, and because they had so many villains, they had to kill Flag Smasher off. So that like and some could have like used, and then there was not enough I guess story to go around with all the villains as well. Like I don't know, it was a bit jumbled, and then I don't know, it just could have been smoother. And then the Flag Smashers, they weren't even that great to begin with. So I don't know, but that was me anyway. They weren't really that charismatic. Not like US Agent or Val or Zemo. Like Zemo stole the series. He carried it. Like his presence was awesome. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, you know, I tend to agree with you, except for the fact that I think Carly was actually fairly charismatic, and I think that actress really carried the role with some weight. But at times, her henchmen, the people who are sort of working in the organization, do feel a little less fleshed out than they might be. You're like, what are all these semi-attractive looking people sort of why are they such malcontents, right? Why are they misbehaving so badly when they know they could get dates? And it's like go have a beer with your partner of choice. But yeah, I kind of see it, you know, like, and I know that I felt that way when, you know, and for any of you who are keeping score, Zemo wins again. He's the big winner of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because this guy consistently gets the job done. So not only did he win Civil War, but he literally wins the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But when his evil butler pulls off the exploding truck trick at the end, I'm like, yeah, I don't feel as bad as I should be that all those Flag Smashers have died. It's not like I totally wanted to see them in another series or something like that. It's like, okay, Zemo just did some housekeeping for me, and I got to thank him the next time I see him inevitably in Captain America 4 or the next miniseries, Secret Invasion. Who knows where we're going to see Zemo again, but we certainly do need to see him again. But thank you for your commentary there, Shadow Biz. I'm going to move on to Stanton. Your thoughts on the series overall? What did you think? Where does this rank for you in terms of MCU content? What's the context for you?
I think it's fantastic overall. Now, as you guys know, I have a real hard time just like ranking anything in the MCU. I love everything for what it is. I've often called it perfect, and I will defend absolutely every frame in the entire thing. So I'm not going to rank it, but I think they executed this extremely well. There's a part of it. I mean, from action, I love all the characters. I mean, we've got so much stuff happening now in Phase 4. It's insane. Like. We've got this backstory with Agatha Harkness. Wanda is now the Scarlet Witch. Vision's got this completely new identity. We've got U.S. Agent in. We just introduced the Flag Smashers. Sam is Captain America. There's so much stuff going on that it's insane. They've really leveled up Phase 4, and I can't. I just it's amazing. They've just gone next level. It's crazy. The there's a little commentary that I'll make about this show a little bit. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but I don't. And it's not a negative about the show, by the way. It's just something that I'm thinking of, and I tend to overthink things, for the record. So the thing, I like the Flag Smashers, by the way. I actually like their characterization. I like that there's this obvious dilemma between Carly, who really wants to kind of go to an extreme wing of this and like just do anything necessary to get her way. And you see the faces of this group go, I don't know. Like, we need to kill people? I don't know. We need to die ourselves? I don't know. The group is definitely not fully with her on this. So I like that there's a difference there. The thing that I want to know more of about this series is I don't understand their position exactly. Like, so what countries are they from, and what is it that they're not getting in their countries or wherever it is they're from that they need to go around to other places in the world to steal stuff? Like, I don't know exactly what their situation is. I mean, I kind of understand it in general, but I almost would like to know more about the details of that. Let's see. There's a concept. We're discussing Sam's speech as well, and it's fine. I like it, but I didn't feel a connection to that the way a lot of people really do. And I don't want to take that away from anybody, because I know a lot of people really latched onto that and find it really important. And that's totally cool. I didn't quite get there, because the entire time I'm thinking, so what solution is it? What is it that's not being done that Sam would like us to do better on? And I'm not absolving the government. The government is terribly inefficient. So I'm absolutely sure they could do better at whatever it is they're trying to do. I just don't know what it is they're trying to do. So from what I could see, the GRC they actually showed this in conversation. Like, they've considered things like, what do you do with somebody who got blipped back in, but now somebody else is living in their house? I mean, that's a tough thing to kind of solve. What do you, they mentioned this in the big meeting when there was a female senator said something to the effect of, do we have enough supplies in resettlement camps? So that, you get the idea that they've considered a lot of different, variables that might go into how they're treating the situation. I just don't know exactly what Sam is asking for. So we need to do better. Do you mean like we need to go in and help like the countries or places that they're from rebuild so that they can have a more sustainable, productive area where they can live? Or do you mean we just literally need to fund them so that they can live wherever they want? Because those are kind of two separate things. And if you are funding them wherever it is they want to live, then how does that work? And where are you getting this funding from, and what needs to be cut in order to do that? I know that's way overthought for the show, but it's, when you're talking about, real world social economic decisions, those are things you have to consider. So it just makes me curious exactly how that works.
Yeah, I was also very curious about it myself, and I do feel that Sam's speech was more meant to be motivational, emotional, emotional in its impact rather than logical or meant to solve any logistical problems. I got the sense with broad strokes with the writers, I got the impression that they were talking about the dispossessed, those who had become refugees. It sounded like resettlement camps had been temporarily staged for those types of people who would blip back and had found that their homes were gone or that they were somehow disenfranchised from society. But that being said, though, I think the what Sam was trying to get at in his speech is that perhaps the GRC had not given those people a voice in what was going to happen to them, and they were not stakeholders in the process. So with the GRC just unilaterally making decisions saying this group of people in this resettlement camp are going to go here and you know be happy living in this hostel for the next 20 years, like without asking them, I think that's what Sam kind of wants to bring with his sort of unity speech. But you're absolutely right, there's a lot that Sam doesn't address in that speech because it is just so emotional. It's kind of like Cap just giving everybody a thumbs up and saying we all need to do better, and then walks off stage and flies away, leaves everybody else to sort of figure out how all of this is actually going to work now. He was the visionary who had the idea, and now some other people have to figure out the logistics. But I've kept the Grandmaster on hold with regards to some comments that he's had. So please join the discourse. What do you think of Sam's speech?
Well, first up, I understood it the other way around. The refugees are not the people that get blipped back. The refugees are the people that during those 5 years were relocated because the countries invited them to come work there and live there because they needed the workforce, etc. And then the people got blipped back and they took their own house back, and then the people that were relocated all over or immigrated all over the world got all of a sudden in refugee camp and were forced to move back to their old whereabouts where life may have been worse. And indeed, the GRC is not considering their needs and their wants, and yeah, it sounds a bit unfair. You get invited to work and live somewhere, and then something magical happens, and then you get kicked out again. That sounds unfair. Without passing judgment on whatever, it's but that's the way I see it, and I think that's what the part where Sam was pointing at. We need to do better, do right by those people, because if you don't, then you get Carly 2.0, and you don't want to see 2.0. That's literally what he said, and I think he's right about that. Without, I agree with Arch. If you overthink stuff, it's impossible, but it's still a virtual world, and that kind of stuff is not really important. Of course, the thought behind this, what do we, behind that speech is how do we treat refugees and those less fortunate in the real world. And yeah, there is something to say about that, but I don't want to get too political now. It's supposed to be a fun review, and I also don't have any solutions for that, by the way. But that's just the way my 2 cents on what Archie was saying, and that he couldn't really get his finger behind what's going on. Well, that's how I saw it. And yeah, I think it's more, the speech is also more about Sam not only being the hero, showing off his amazing skills to save people and protect people, but it also shows the one who gave the speeches in 23 movies before was Steve Rogers' Captain America, motivational speeches. He was the moral compass of the Avengers, and Sam is showing that he has that same spirit, and that he can carry that part of the mantle very well. And I think that's why the speech was so important. Yeah, like I said before, the speech was also meant for Isaiah Bradley. He may or may not have been aware that this was broadcasted, but it showed that you can grow beyond the past and grow and show your worth and be appreciated. And despite not fitting the blonde hair, blue eyes, idealistic, if it's idealistic portray of Captain America, Sam became truly Captain America with that speech. And that's what's so important. The mental, the moral compass, that passed over to Sam Wilson, and it's now up to him to keep the Avengers on the straight path. And if the Contessa's promise comes true, he's very much needed.
Indeed. Indeed. So obviously a really thoughtful show, guys, and sort of not in that sort of YA thoughtful Hunger Games way where you get like Politics 101 for the preteen reader or something like that. So always giving us a little something to discuss. And I think a lot of credit goes to Malcolm Spellman and his writer's room for putting together something where we're having this kind of discussion about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in regards to, you know, a comic book sci-fi fantasy world. So there's no question in my mind that if that group is moving on to handle Captain America 4, that we're going to get a very interesting and intriguing movie. But I do want to wrap up this segment. It's been lovely talking about the episode. We've had a lot of praise going on here, but I am going to sort of put our feet to the fire, champions, in a quick lightning round before we close out, just to give your 1 to 10 score on this episode. As always, you got to go on record for all time. Uh, 1 to 10, starting with Grandmaster. I think I know how this is going to go, but what was your rating for One World, One People?
Well, this show has been slowly building up, where I was cautious at the beginning with a 7, going to a 9, going to an 11 and a 13, and last week doubling down and going for 20 out of 10. They struck the landing. It landed right on my number 1 spot in the MCU ranking. So how can I not give this a 6.16 out of 10?
Outstanding. So you got double the value of the content. You so if the knobs go to 10, you went to 20, meaning that this was like watching 2 season finales.
Yeah,
that were incredibly awesome.
It was amazing, and I will defend this show, and I will die on this hill.
I don't think it needs much defending if you check what's going on in social media amongst the MCU fans, and even detractors have had to sort of acquiesce to the idea that perhaps that this was a very substantial series. But moving on to Stanton, I know grading is hard for you, but man, what do you think? 1 to 10, One World, One People.
So I unrated last week, by the way, but I've watched it again and thought about it a lot. So I'm going to go with a 9 on last week's, by the way. So that
okay,
that's in the official category, and I'll do the same with this one. I'll go with a 9 here. I do love it. I really do. Like so much of it is really good here. I'll just leave it at that. I won't further explain, but I'll go with a 9.
And certainly, thank you for that. But and certainly, and last but not least, we have Shadowbiz giving his 1 to 10. Tell us what you thought last episode.
Yeah, it was a great finale. It wrapped things up nicely. We got to see Falcon in his suit, the power broker, the reveal. Yeah, I give it. So I just said 9, right? And he's the greatest MCU fan ever. So I'm going to say 9.1.
9.1. We're moving into decimals here, but obviously it looks like you felt pretty satisfied with the episode overall. Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Yeah, great series, great episode. I think this validates the whole idea that moving content to Disney Plus was a good idea for Marvel. It lets super fans sort of jump in, get these deep dives on these characters that may have had to play supporting roles in some of the bigger theatrical films. And I think it was a great idea. They've really hit a home run, and I hope that they can keep up the momentum when it comes to Loki. Speaking of which, guys, we're going to be doing a review series for Loki. So for all of our listeners out there, if you're tuned in, I hope you'll stay with us for the next segment where we're going to look at some fan theory speculation. So stay tuned. All right. It is time for a special edition of Canon Fodder.
Canon Fodder.
Typically, this is the segment on our show where we look at some of the latest MCU fan theories drifting out there in social media and whatnot. But today we're changing it up a little bit with a series end scorecard. So we're going to find out, were the champions on point this time around with some of these fan theories, or will the fans emerge as the victors? We've got 15 theories to vet, plus a bonus theory from last episode. So that's 16 in total. So we might as well jump in and get started. I'm going to go through our theories in the order that they were released, and I'm going to let us know whether the fans turned out to be right or wrong about a particular theory that they put out there, and what the champions thought about, sort of on average. So our first theory, coming out of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is Zemo tries to take control of the Winter Soldier. This one seemed like a fairly obvious one since, that's kind of what Zemo does to get the job done in Civil War. It turned out to be right. We do see at some point that Helmut Zemo does start to recite the call words to activate the Winter Soldier. He kind of plays us off as if he was, I'm just playing with you, man. But we know Zemo. If he could have gotten away with it, he would have totally done it. So the fans were absolutely right on this one, scoring 1 in our tally so far. But the champions decided to hold on this one. And it was a universal hold across the board, not netting the champions a point on this particular category. So there you have it. We're keeping everybody honest in this segment. Our second theory: John Walker is the main villain of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Unfortunately, the fandom was dead wrong about this one. They do not score a point here. And the champions emerge victorious this time around, earning a point with a universal sell across the board. No reservations. John Walker was never going to be the ultimate villain of this series. Our next theory is Sam will end with the suit and shield. This came out early in the fandom, probably before the series even started, and they were right. So that totally nets the fandom a point here. And as far as the champion take on this, we were a little mixed, but still not mixed enough to lose the point. So we had 2 strong buys on this and a hold from the panel on that particular episode. So that's 1 and 1. Our next theory, and hang in there with us. We've got a few of these to go through, but I think you'll find them all to be incredibly interesting. So our next one is the series will introduce the Weapon Plus program. We I think here the champions across the board felt like we were deeply mixed on this one, surprisingly, but the fandom ultimately was wrong. We had 1 buy, 1 sell, and 1 hold on this. Not enough to get the champions the point, but the fandom doesn't get the point either. So we're going to call that one a draw. Sounded like a stretch and a reach, but some of the players were dropping Easter eggs that kind of made you think Wolverine might show up or someone out of Weapon Plus, but turned out to be a big goose egg there. Our next theory, Zemo will form the Thunderbolts. And this is, we have to be very particular here with this one. with this theory, it is Zemo who would do it, and not necessarily General Ross or somebody else. Zemo was thought to be the architect of this. That turned out to be dead wrong. The fandom does not get a point, and the champions unilaterally emerge victorious from this with 3 cells across the board on this particular theory. So they do get the point here. Moving on to our next theory, Black Widow will appear in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That one, we could never really sign on for that one. And when we say Black Widow, we were specifically speaking of Yelena Belova from the new movie, which is forthcoming with the Black Widow. That turned out to be dead wrong. The fandom does not get the point. And the champions once again emerge victorious on this one with cells across the board without reservation. I think this took all of 15 seconds for the champions in this episode to actually turn in the verdict on that one. Our next one, this one, I think this one surprised me. The theory is Sharon Carter is the power broker. That's what the fandom put out there into the world. And when I put it in front of the champions, they sold on this, guys. That's right. For our listeners out there, we had mostly a cell. We did have one person holding on it, which sort of gives the champions some validity, but majority on the panel said they were going to sell, and it turns out that Sharon Carter was the power broker, netting the fandom another point with regards to theories. Our next theory, John Walker will have a psychotic break. That one turned out to be controversial because we all couldn't decide what the definition of a psychotic break was going to be. Was he going to go crazy and go find his parents and murder them? But it does turn out that John Walker does have some kind of episode, whatever you want to call it, after taking the serum. The fandom's absolutely right on this. The champions had 2 buys in this, 2 strong buys and 1 hold. So not as strong as the fandom, but I'm giving both points on this. I think we all understood that just by virtue of the source material, something was going to happen to John Walker's mental state that was going to send him over the tipping point.
Can I give a shout out to you, Lord Deathman, in this case? Because
absolutely.
When I was listening back to all the fan theories earlier today, to help you set up this list, you actually predicted something a week before it actually happened, what would happen, and it was very specific. You actually challenged one of the champions with the question, will John Walker decapitate a person with the shield? And that you did a week before it actually happened. So I want to give you an enormous shout out for predicting this right. It's almost like you were on the writing stuff.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. As the moderator, I don't quite get a vote in our panels. Next time I may join the panel of champions as we have another host and rotate out. But yes, I did. And I'm going to take credit for it. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of John Walker, and I was deeply sympathetic to his character in this particular series. I love the way Wyatt Russell portrayed the character, and I knew that he was going to handle any type of mental illness or a turn down a dark corner in a very sensitive way, and I think he really, really nailed it spot on. And I'm glad that he's joined the MCU as a full-time player. Hopefully we will see him again sooner rather than later. But we are somewhere near the midpoint in theories, and it looks like as of the current tally, the fandom has a slight edge on the champions. Anything could happen in the bottom half of the tallies, but right now the fandom is ahead by 1 point. But let's continue to look at the theories that came out in the wild. So many of these creative theories, and you can tell that the MCU has a really engaged fan base. But let's look at our next one. The Flag Smashers join forces with Sam and Bucky. Yeah, that one didn't quite work out for the fandom. So they were dead wrong on that, not getting a point. And the fandom and the champions The champions come across the board with a cell, earning themselves 1 point, catching up and tying with the fandom overall with regards to theories. Moving on to our next one, Io and Bucky become lovers. Or are lovers. This one felt like a stretch, right? This one felt like a lot of shipping that the fandom wanted to go on. I think people were just mistaking some of that professional history that the two have and all that time, because the actors do a good job, Florence Kasumba and Sebastian Stan, of making it seem like the two characters do have a little history with the time spent in Wakanda. So I could see why some of the fandom might have said, oh my God, they're going to get together. But it didn't happen. The fandom was wrong. They do not get a point. And the champions across the board decided to sell on that, accepting no nonsense from the fandom. Moving on to our next one.
Although I've got to say something, even though the fans were wrong about this, they were kind of right, because he did have jungle fever with Sam's sister. He flirted with her.
Well, let's update our terminology. I'm not sure how that plays today on the U.S. front, but yes, there was a little bit of chocolate vanilla sort of mixing going on with our ice cream there. Looked like, hey, Bucky could be a man of very diverse tastes. It's a modern world, and he gets to choose. And so does Sarah. So who knows? The next season of this could see Sarah and Bucky out on a date. Who knows? But in any event, guys,
why is Bucky being shipped with almost every character in the,
I know,
in the MCU? I
think the fans want to see Sebastian Stan lay it on the line.
The can of worms that called Stucky, but come on, leave the guy alone. Just let him be the Winter Soldier.
Look, I know this is Disney. I know this is going to happen behind closed doors. But when it comes time to consummate, is it going to be with or without the prosthesis? That's the only question that Lord Deathman has. Will he hang it up on the shelf, or will he decide to wear it?
With. For sure.
with. Okay, I'm taking votes right now. With or without in the love scene that Sebastian Stan gets with his chosen partner. I'm gonna say with. I'm gonna say he keeps the arm on, perhaps powered down. Yes, lots of fun we're having here, guys, for you listeners out there in terms of the fandom theories. We got a couple more to vet here to see who emerges triumphant in the Canon Fodder series for the Winter Soldier, for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Our next one is The Red Skull Returns. Yeah. This one sucked up about a week's worth of heated debate about the Red Skull somehow coming back from Vormir, knowing everybody's parents. I know your parents. I know your parents. Your parents. just naming people's parents and getting into all sorts of hijinks with his cloak. But the fandom turned out to be wrong. They do not get a point for this particular segment. And the champions were wise enough in their wisdom to do a hard sell on the return of the Red Skull. So they do earn a point for this. The champions now find themselves in the lead, by the way, a solid lead. Now, when we take a look at our next theory, this one really came out of left field and really had no chance of going anywhere, but I had to put it down because so much discussion happened around it on Twitter in particular. But people actually thought that Isaiah Bradley was going to turn out to be the power broker, just because he was really upset about what happened to him 30 years ago. He was going to start manufacturing super soldier serum with Madripoor, get Sharon working for him as his top lieutenant, and turn out to be the face of villainy for this particular part of the saga. But the fans, dead wrong, not earning a point, and the champions once again holding their own, earning another point with a hard sell across the board. Moving on to our next theory, and we're down to our last three, so hang in there, everyone. John Walker will debut as the U.S. agent. That was the fandom theory, and you know what? The fans turned out to be right. They get a point for this, but the champions also turn out to be right because we had two buys on that panel, one hold, so a little soft, but I have to award the point here because most of the champions thought that, yes, we are going to see the U.S. agent, and we certainly did full-on glory, brand new black, white, and red costume. It looked fantastic. Last two, Falcon Cap hybrid suit in the box. What's in the box? What's in the box? We were all talking about this. We were all very excited for the idea of the new Captain America, Sam Wilson, which we felt was inevitable, going into action, but using the skill set of both Captain America and the Falcon, and the Wakandans having built him a suit to reflect that. The fandom was absolutely right about it, and the champions bought it across the board, awarding both factions in this epic struggle a point. Now for our final theory, which turned out to be a bonus theory. We added one extra for the devotees of the Review of Champions. We went around the table and we vetted this theory. It was Sharon Carter is a Skrull. Now, as much as that might unfold in the future, as much as some people might desperately want to see it in Secret Invasion based on her behavior over the last 6 episodes, it did not happen. The fandom was wrong. They do not get the point. And the champions were selling across the board on this one, earning them yet another point and making them the victors of this overall struggle. So the final tally, if you were keeping up, puts the fandom at only 6 theories right. They came out strong in the first half with theories, but they only get 6 out of 16 correct, whereas the champions were right about 13 of the theories that were circulating out in the wild. So better luck next time to all of the fans out there. I do hope you get it right. You gotta wake up early in the morning to deal with the champions here on the Review of Champions. So, guys, what do you think? Are you thrilled about the victory of the panel overall?
I'm thrilled, but I've got a new one, a new theory here. So
okay.
In the comics, if you're familiar with how the Red Skull came back, he possessed somebody. Sharon Carter is the Red Skull.
Uh-oh. Hot off the press. If you are listening to the Review of Champions, Stanton has said it. And now it is out there in the ether. Sharon Carter could turn out to be the Red Skull. She's going to be the one naming everybody's parents. Son of Martha. Son of Greg. Yeah.
Why you say that name?
You know, Sharon, why did you say that name?
I'm not taking that seriously, by the way.
Well, you never know what's going to happen with regards to these theories. So this has been a rousing round of Canon Fodder. The champions have emerged victorious, doing what they do, a superhero fandom at its best. Again, when we do Loki, we're going to have another round of Canon Fodder, and this time the fandom will have a chance to see if they can match wits against the champions.
That Canon Fodder series is going to be wild because Loki is going to be wild.
It is.
That is going to be totally unpredictable, and that will give us the best fan theories. No doubt.
Maximum speculation because we're going to be dealing with multiple variants of Loki. It's going to be, is this for Loki 21, Loki 137?
Can I do a shout out to the people listening, watching? We are usually taping this on Saturday. If you have a theory about the show, Loki, or any other show we're doing a review series for, you can send it to us by Twitter or put it on the board. And then we may discuss it also on the section. So then, you can be and you may get a shout out. You never know.
Yes, the Review of Champions is open to all, and we invite you to join us. I'd like to take closing remarks for the group to see if there's anything that you have to say about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a series overall, about this final episode, or any of the fantastic moments that have happened over the last 6 weeks. All right, we've got wait, Stanton, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, fine. I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes.
I'm thinking I may have, but you go first.
I just think the Captain America series as a whole right now has got to be up there among the greatest things in comic book movie or show history. It's I mean they it's really been on fire the entire time, and we've got Cap 4 coming. This series might get a second season. I mean, Sam's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of mileage, and they've just been to some incredible heights with this series, and I can't wait for more of it. And then on top of that, just the way the MCU is going with Phase 4, I'll just reiterate, like, they're not missing, man. They haven't missed yet with anything in Phase 4. They're just really opening everything up. They've got a lot of stuff coming. They've got Eternals coming out. Shang-Chi looks great.
Looks fantastic. Shang-Chi looks fantastic.
Yeah, let's talk
and
about
I
that
believe
trailer
it's
for
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi,
yes. Shang-Chi. I don't know why I said it like that. Shang-Chi. It looks amazing. Black Widow is going to be incredible. They've just got a ton of stuff coming out here, so I'm super excited.
Outstanding. I feel exactly the same way.
Did you guys notice the dragon in the logo of Shang-Chi?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So there is rumor out there that says that Fin Fang Foom is actually in the movie. If they pull that one off, that would be crazy.
I think I'm going to have to wear adult
villain
diapers to Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that would be crazy, and it would be fitting because I think my comic book knowledge is limited, but I read somewhere that Fin Fang Foom is actually connected to the real Mandarin, right?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
So it would make sense for him to show up in Shang-Chi.
I don't know. Somebody might be a little more knowledgeable to me, but as far as I recall, basically the Mandarin found Fin Fang Foom in hibernation, I believe, and then took the rings from him. And then that's how he wound up acquiring them. There may be some more details to that. I'm sure there is.
There have been a lot of retcons, but I know that the rings themselves were created by an alien race of dragons, of which Fin Fang Foom is a member of that species. But that being said, guys, I don't want to cross the streams here. I know everybody's getting excited about Shang-Chi because of that incredible trailer, but I want to take us right back home. I want to close out by saying that I am very much thrilled by the news that Malcolm Spellman is going to be tackling Captain America 4, that it is in development and that he's bringing people from his writer's room to join him. I have heard some talk about whether Anthony Mackie is leading man material to sort of carry a Captain America movie. Now, I can understand people's concerns. You've seen him for years as a supporting character, slowly moving up to the forefront. But one, I think Marvel may be over leading man syndrome in general. They're not necessarily so dependent on their leading men. And two, if anyone has earned it, has put in the work, been in the harness for those long months on that set, really done the hard work of acting and creating a character, it's got to be Anthony Mackie. And I'm totally in his corner for Captain America 4 if he is the lead. In fact, I think they'd be doing themselves a huge disservice if that's not how Captain America 4 plays out. But we'll see. So those are my closing remarks, and you've heard it here from the panel as well. Fantastic series. We suggest that you check it out if you're doing this for the first time and you're catching our show for the first time. We've done reviews for every single episode, so please do check out the channel and don't be afraid to interact with us. But sadly, this does conclude another review of Champions. So once again, if you've enjoyed the conversation, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and sound off in the comments. Check the description for all of our haunts on social media. We do that Twitter thing. We do Facebook. We probably do all of the things as you do. I want to give a huge thanks to the Champions for hanging with me in this series. And I also want to give a huge thanks to you for tuning in if you are listening today. Be well.